Well, the boys from Foregate Whiskey Company are at it again, today with batch 24, Bourbon Downunder. How is this going to stack up to prior releases? Only one way to find out. Let's do this. So today we're taking a look at batch 24 Bourbon Downunder. This is coming in at 116.6 proof. It's a mash bill of 60% corn, 36% rye, 4% malted barley, while all finished in Australian Apera Sherry Casks. It is non-age stated, and the MSRP is coming in right around that pretty standard Foregate pricing of $200. So let's take a look at the color. So as you can see, a beautiful kind of mahogany color, taking on a lot of that sherry influence, kind of gives you that kind of reddish mahogany kind of hue. So very, very beautiful color on that one. So again, move the whiskey around in the glass, very, very oily, typical of Foregate, all their stuff non-chill filtered. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into the nose. So right out of the gate, you get hit with this beautiful cherry chocolate cola kind of note. It's very rich, intense. It's almost like a concentrate of what it is that I'm describing. Incredible baking spice on that one. This is a big boy whiskey just so far on the nose. Very, very dark fruit heavy. It's almost as though it was like a jam. There's something about a fruit jam. It's, again, like I said, very, very fruit forward. Nice burnt brown sugars. Almost like a molasses. There's a thickness, richness to this. Really nice vanilla custard. You're also in the background getting a slight kind of orange citrus note on that as well. And I'll say the longer this kind of sits out and the longer we kind of go through this, much more of the rye influence starts to kind of come out in this as well. As it should. I mean, this is about as high a rye as you're going to get from MGP. Yeah, again, beautiful rye notes on that. I'll even say there's a slight nuttiness. At times that can come across for me as with a sherry, or especially Apera sherry, is that there's a little bit more of an earthiness that's there to it. A richness, much more like bold. Definitely some black pepper. Yeah, and I'll say there is, in addition to all of that richness, there's an earthiness that's there to it, and that's clearly coming from that Apera sherry. It drinks different than like an Oloroso or a PX. There's always something about the Apera sherry that drinks a little bit more on the earthy side, more bold. It's more in your face. We'll see how that translates over to the palate. Before we get into the taste, I want to say a big thank you to today's sponsor, ZBiotics. So let's hear a little bit more about what ZBiotics has to offer. So I'm sure you've heard and seen all the buzz around this brand, ZBiotics. The question is, what is it and what is it going to do for you? Today we're going to take a look at that right now. So ZBiotics is the first of its kind. This is a probiotic drink that breaks down the byproduct of alcohol that just gives you that after morning sluggish feeling after maybe enjoying a few too many cocktails. So how does it work? Simply prior to enjoying your favorite alcoholic beverage or heading out on the town for the evening, simply open up one of the bottles within the box and enjoy it. That's it. You're on your way to then feeling much better, much more productive the following morning without having that after morning sluggish feeling. For me, I like to use these right before doing a barrel pick. When you're going through rick houses and you're enjoying or consuming samples, this will assure that the morning after you don't have that after morning sluggish feel. So I have to say a big thank you to ZBiotics for sponsoring today's video. Make sure you check out the link in the description below. Use code MyBourbonJourney. Enjoy 15% off your order. Again, use code MyBourbonJourney. And a big thank you goes out to ZBiotics again for sponsoring today's video. So right out of the gate, what I have to say is it's got a great mouthfeel. Super creamy, viscous, thick, rich, oily. Love all of that so far right out of the gate. So just like I was getting on the nose, this leads very dark fruit forward. There's very much of like a jam aspect or something along those lines. There's this extra richness, extra fruity richness that is just very, very forward. I will say that that high rye is definitely influencing this whiskey. That spice factor, the black pepper that's there, it's very fruit forward, but with a nice amount of black pepper that's on that as well. Yeah, I also think you're getting a lot of that cherry, chocolate, cola aspect kind of all kind of blended together. It's very rich, almost like a concentrate, like I got on the nose or something that's very rich, bold, and deep with this. I wasn't maybe focusing on as much on the nose, but on the palate, a little more of the oak present is kind of coming out in this. It's that sweet, rich, kind of rickhousey kind of oak presence that's on this. Again, there's just something that exudes quality, richness, you know, all of that kind of combined together, I think so far is what this palate is showing. And here comes a lot of, again, like I was getting that sherry influence, but again, it's coming across as a slight buttery note, maybe even earthy like I was getting on the nose before. But again, this Apera Sherry and other Apera Sherries I've had before, for me, always drinks with, again, that maybe slight nuttiness, but more of an earthy characteristic to it. They're just something that's big and bold outside of like a PX or an Oloroso Sherry. It's beautifully balanced, meaning between the sweet, rich oak, that spice, that kind of jammy fruit aspect that you're getting, there's really nice balances to each one of these that you're getting. So for me, I hate to even say this, but this may surpass or be on the same level as some of the Kelvin collaborations that they've done. This is a big, bold, in-your-face bourbon, and one that I'm absolutely loving, and one that I would say is not only worth having a bottle, but if you can get a second bottle of this, this is a whiskey that is, for me, in that kind of special category. What I'll say following some of that is, this is a whiskey that if you can, prior to sitting down and enjoying it, let it sit in the glass for 10, 15 minutes. Let it open up. I think that will also reward you. This is a whiskey that definitely needs some time, not only in the glass, but I think also open as well. I've had this bottle open now for about 3 weeks. So I've given it a little bit of a time. I've given it some time to kind of open up, introduce some air to it. And I think it's starting to kind of finally hit its stride. Absolutely fantastic, incredible bourbon. The more I kind of sip on it, the more darkness kind of comes out, meaning there's that dark, rich, kind of chocolate, cherry, cola notes. All of that, like I said before, there's this concentrate factor to this whiskey, and that's all in a very good way. You get all of these fantastic flavors all put together, blended, mingled. It's a beautiful, balanced whiskey. So if we transition a little bit over to kind of the finish, what I will say is that the finish on this is long. It's a beautiful whiskey that just sits on your palate. It's oily, creamy, all of that. And what you really have remaining is a lot of what I've been describing. So, you know, you've got a lot of that dark fruit jam notes, heavy baking spices, nice, like rich rye as well on that. Nice, rich, sweet oak. Again, like I had mentioned, like maybe being in a rick house, there's a little bit of that richness that's there. And again, that sherry influence, but more on the earthy side. So you've got a very well-balanced, well-blended bourbon. And for what it is that they did with this, for me, I'll go ahead and say this is probably, of all of the releases I've done, in my top 3, 5 max. I'll even probably say more top 3 for me. It's an absolutely incredible bourbon. They've blended this perfectly. So there you have it. Hopefully that helps. If you were looking for batch 24 bourbon down under, there you have it. I'll say if you can find it, buy a backup. Incredible bourbon. So Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. If you'd like to follow me, you can on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of those places at My Bourbon Journey. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can through my Patreon page, which I'll have linked in the description below. That will also allow you to become part of the Mash and Journey Whiskey Club. So guys, thanks again. Appreciate everything. And with that, it's about the journey and not the destination. Cheers.